practice many different spiritual things to help us kind of recharge our spiritual batteries, because during the course of the week, we can get pretty thrown off course by a lot of things. It doesn't take a whole lot because there's a lot out there. So we come together and we pray together and we meditate together and we sing together and we learn together and we laugh together. And so I want to welcome you here this morning.
Unity is a positive path for spiritual living. We offer a unique approach to spirituality. We are love-based and all-inclusive. We embrace an open heart and an open mind. We are spiritual, not religious. We are a blending of Christianity, Eastern philosophy, science, transcendentalism, and affirmative prayer based on the power of the mind.
We offer spiritual teachings that provide practical tools for meaningful and abundant living. We envision a spiritually transformed world. That is our big vision.
As an interspiritual community and divine love in expression, we draw from and honor all paths to spirit. We have no dogma or creed, though we do have 5 principles that formulate our philosophy. Our foundational belief is oneness. Our fundamental practice is living in the present moment.
Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Georgetown. A spiritual breath of fresh air, we like to say, just because we see things so differently than most people, and we're here to share that positivity, that view, and offer everybody a different way to look at this experience of this human experience that we are in. We have some announcements.
Yes, again. Once again, welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Georgetown. If you are here for the first time, we would like to extend a special welcome. If you are comfortable, please raise your hand or stand so we can say hi. And anybody new? Got a couple of new people. Yay! Yay! We'll bring you a packet. Can you stand it? You comfortable saying your name or telling us where you're from, or?
Hi, I'm Sammy. I live here in Sun City. I'm from the other Unity in Austin that we're moving.
Okay. Sandy. Well, welcome, Sandy.
Welcome.
Appreciate you.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here. Was there anyone else? Oh, yes. Good morning. Okay. Oh, one more. Hold on. Oh, two more.
My name is Shonda Birch. I've been to the Georgetown Unity, but when it was on the other side of the freeway. So
Okay.
That counts.
That counts. Yes, that counts. Thanks, John. Glad you're here. And there was one other person.
Can I say something about Shonda? I've worked with her several times, and of course you're going to hear, she's a fantastic singer. But we've also done some rock and roll gigs.
Yeah.
If we're doing a Stevie Wonder song, and you see that she's kicked her shoes off, she's fixing to rap. I'll never forget about that.
Well, just so you know, you have full freedom to do so.
That's what I was going to say. Came to the right place. There was someone else back here that was new. Oh, Sandy's friend.
Oh,
You're from Houston. Okay, welcome from Houston. Glad you're here. We hope you feel welcome and choose to make Unity Spiritual Center Georgetown your spiritual home. The Let's Get Metaphysical discussion group meets Wednesdays at 10 a.m. The topic and location will be announced. The Lunch and Learn event with Key Browning. Key, you want to say? She's right here. Is scheduled for Sunday, March 19th. Do you want to say a little bit?
Very important. So I asked her to bring out her copy of her book along and tell us a little about. She's doing a workshop. Is that what you want to call it?
Yeah, we could call it that. It's
Right after service next week.
Yeah.
And she's on up persons right here.
Yay!
Thank you so much. So I'm going to teach out of the book. I'll teach a little bit, of course, on nutrition from an Ayurvedic perspective, since we'll be eating. And then I'm going to teach some other real life methods that will help you to stay balanced. And then we'll close with a chakra meditation.
Awesome.
So,
Sounds good.
I'm going to donate this book to the church.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
then it's available here for you to check out, but I'll also have it available if you'd like to purchase it. I have it to get with me today, and I'll have it next week as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Great. Looking forward to that. So,
We do have a $10 recommended or love offering. It's not necessary, but if you would like to, just help with the whole project, we welcome it for sure.
okay. And if you'd like to have your lunch provided by Jason's Deli that day, please complete your order and submit it to Liz today. Liz, over here, today, if you want Jason Deli.
CG and cash checks and the order form and payment to me today. And I'll be right here after the service. Okay? Thanks.
Okay, got that? All right. You may still brown bag it if you choose to do so. The book club will meet on Tuesday, March 28th at 10 a.m. at the Larkin Owl to discuss the book Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth. You won't want to miss this one. And I think we have 5 books in the bookstore.
I
Is
got
that
4 or
correct?
5 more copies today, this week. Because this is really a must-read for Unity people. And I plan to do a couple of lessons on it as well, probably at the beginning of next month, so to tie it together. But it really is a terrific book.
It is. We read it, I think that was the very first book we read with the book club years ago. Okay, save the date, Saturday, April 15th, for another potluck to be hosted by Kathy Herring.
Where's Cassie? Oh, there she
Yay,
is.
there she is, yeah. And the theme is Easter springtime. So put that on your calendar. Maria is now preparing the volunteer schedule for the next 2 months. Please go to Breeze and update your blockout dates before this Wednesday. Thank you. To sign up or get more information about these events, please visit our welcome table in the foyer, see your weekly e-newsletter, or check out our website at www.unitygeorgetown.org. Thank you.
Well, as you know, we like to start with something we call laughter is the best medicine, because it kind of sets the tone for everything. And I've kind of run out of jokes, so you guys need to. Alice said she sent me, I haven't seen them. So I'm going to do one. It was the second one I did way back in January of last year, so there was a lot of people who were not here, so I want to say it again because it's funny. Maggie and I were playing at golf yesterday, so this is a golf joke story. So Jesus and Moses are playing golf. That's funny already, right? Jesus and Moses are playing golf, and Moses gets up there. It's a par 3, but there's water in front, and it's a little bit long, so he gets a 5-iron, and he gets up there and he gives it a really good whack straight into the water. So Jesus grabs his 5-iron, and he says, Tiger Woods would use this club. And Moses tells him, you saw what happened. We play about the same way. It's not going to work. Tiger Woods would use this club. I'm telling you, Tiger Woods would use this club. Gets up there, gives it a really good whack straight into the water. So there's Jesus walking on the water, looking for his golf ball. And along comes another golfer, and he says, who's that guy think he is, Jesus? And Moses said, oh, no, he's Jesus, all right. The problem is he thinks he's Tiger Woods. Stand up.
I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing I'm choosing heaven today. choosing joy today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing, I'm choosing joy today. I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing, I'm choosing heaven today.
And now I'll begin the contemplative part of our service by lighting the 3 candles that represent the law of divine order: mind, idea, and expression. The law works this way. We align ourselves with divine mind, which is the source of infinite possibilities. And we are activated with, and we are in the flow of ideas, creative expression, and we bring that into manifestation through our thoughts, words, and actions. And in this way, we share in God's creative power. And now we'll sing another song together.
I feel the Spirit moving in me. 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 I feel the love 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 moving in me. I feel the joy 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 moving in me. I feel the Spirit 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 moving in me.
And now please join me in affirming our prayer of intention together. Living Spirit opens our minds, opens our hearts, touches us all deeply with love, and sends us out as agents, agents of love, agents of peace, agents of justice. Amen. And now we'll affirm our statement of being. There is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. And now please join me in affirming our vision and mission statements. Centered in God, we co-create a world of love, peace, and abundance. We are a thriving spiritual community, inspiring and empowering individual and global transformation as exemplified by the life and teachings of Jesus.
The daily word for today is illuminate. Taking a moment to appreciate the beauty of a sunset, I realize that in another part of the world, the first days of the rising sun are bringing light to the morning sky. Whether I can see it or not, the sun never stops shining. Somewhere a new day is dawning. Much more brilliantly than the sun, the light of God too is always shining. Sometimes my thoughts may be so focused on a challenging life situation that I do not sense this divine light. Then in a flash of insight, I experience again the illuminating presence that even in my darkest moments is as near as my next thought. I affirm, let there be light. I breathe out frustration and worry. Breathing in, I am filled with the light of truth that illuminates my mind and shines from within my heart. And from Genesis 1, verse 3, then God said, let there be light, and there was light. Today's affirmation is, I welcome the light. Please repeat the affirmation twice with me. I welcome the light. I welcome the light.
Please welcome now Ms. Shonda.
Okay, let's do it this way. Rolling river God, little stones are smooth, only once the water passes through. And so I am a stone, rough and grainy still. I'm just trying to reconcile this river's chill. But when I close my eyes and I feel you rushing by, I know that time brings change, and change takes time. So when the sunset comes, my prayer will be this one, that you might pick me up and notice that I am just a little smoother in your hand. Some
sometimes raging wild, sometimes swollen high. Never have I known this river dry. The deepest part of you, dear Lord, is where I want to stay. I long to feel my roughest edges washed away. But when I close my eyes and I feel you rushing by, I know that time brings change, and change takes time. And when my sunset comes, my prayer will be this one, that you might pick me up and notice that I am just a little smoother in your hand. Rolling river God, little stones are smooth, only once the water passes through.
I'm not, I'm going home. While I think that beautiful song has lifted us up into a place of transcendent awe, which is a perfect place to be as we pray together as a community this morning. And as I say these words, as I pray these words, in spirit we pray with one voice. Our Sunday gathering is a sacred time, a time we set aside with intention and purpose every week. We make this choice to join together here to experience the presence of God and to deepen our connection with one another. And each one of us is part of the flow of giving and receiving that is the life force of our spiritual community. Our hearts are open, our minds are clear of judgment, preconception, and we are inspired to live from an awareness of the divine beings we truly are. And as we share this journey of awakening to our divine nature together, the love and compassion that begins here magnifies that love and flows out to bless our world. And now, if there is anyone or any situation that you're holding in prayer today, we shine the light of divine love on it now by either speaking it aloud or simply holding it in our hearts silently. And now we join together in singing an ancient prayer, a prayer handed down through the ages that affirms God's presence here, now, in earth as it is in heaven. Our Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory
You guys are making this really tough today. Our spiritual practice this morning is love them anyway, and it's inspired by a quote that many of you may be familiar with, which is, "People are illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered. Love them anyway." And those words are often attributed to Mother Teresa, but actually, because she posted them on the bulletin board of her mission in Calcutta, but actually they were written by an American author and college professor whose name was Dr. Kent M. Keith, and they were part of a guide that he wrote for student leaders called The Paradoxical Commandments. It's worth reading the whole thing sometime. But whoever wrote it, they were certainly setting the bar very high for us, because loving people when they're acting in a way that doesn't seem lovable is not an easy practice. But that's exactly what our master teacher Jesus asked us to do when he said we must forgive others 70 times 7, which was another way of saying as many times as it takes. And it's also what our second unity principle says when it tells us there is divinity in every person despite outer appearances. Now, it seems fairly doable to love our neighbor when we're sitting here surrounded by our spiritual family. But then when we get out there in the real world, encountering rude drivers, cranky relatives, telemarketers, and political extremists, it can feel humanly impossible. But the good news is we are more than human. We are also divine, and our divine nature holds in potential all the qualities that are God's. Infinite compassion, unconditional love, unlimited understanding, and patience. Spiritual love is not just a feeling, it's a divine power that's in all of us. And when we set the intention to see the divinity in everyone, we activate this power, and we're able to express it more skillfully. And a good place to start this is in prayer and meditation, because let's face it, some people are just easier to love when they're not in the room with us. So in prayer, we can bring someone to mind that we may find it hard to love unconditionally. Try to hold thoughts of loving kindness toward them. And as you picture that person, you may want to say to them, "May you be well. May you be free from pain. May you live with ease." And sometimes it helps to picture them as a young child, lovable and loving. Allow yourself to soften toward them as much as you can in this moment. And then expand your intention of love and non-judgment to include all people and all beings. This practice helps us take an intention of loving kindness into our day. And when someone who's acting illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered crosses our path or turns up on the news, we're more likely to see beyond that human behavior to glimpse the divinity within. And now I invite you to relax, take a couple of deep breaths as we prepare for meditation, and you may want to envision your heart as a radiating center of divine love, sending harmonizing energy into the space around you, and then expanding that flow of energy outward to include all beings as we rest in the silence for a few minutes. And you'll know to bring your attention back when Dan begins to sing.
There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
Thank you, Dan. Let me put this one. And thank you, Therese, for those words. Because, you know, in unity, it's not just a fascinating way to look at things. It is a challenging one. Because we need to try to do this not just sometimes, but all the time. And not just with some, but with everyone. That's a challenge. But that's what we need to do. So let's move forward. Next week marks the halfway point of the Lent season. And every time about this time of the year, I find it's a good time to talk about the fundamentals of Christianity. And by the fundamentals of Christianity, I am referring to that of the Master Jesus, and not of what has come to be known as contemporary Christianity. And for the sake of those who are new to Unity, and we're getting more and more of you, and we welcome you. In Unity, we see a clear distinction between the life of Jesus and the life about Jesus. And you will hear me talk about this over and over as we proceed through the lessons, because that is how important it is for you to understand that. And furthermore, repetition is the way that we learn. So today's lesson is about the Beatitudes, and they're found in Matthew 5, 1 through 12, and Luke 6, 20 to 26. Now, before I get into the Beatitudes, let me say something about the history of the event. During my preparation initially for this lesson a couple of years ago, I was trying to learn as much as I could about the early Christian movement, and we've learned a lot in the last 150 years. Biblical scholasticism has come a long way. And the view that scholars take these days is that the Sermon on the Mount as an event probably did not take place. It's more likely that the author of that gospel, either of the gospels, of which, by the way, we don't know who the person was, put it together in retrospect. That's not to say that Jesus did not say these things. Is that he more probably said them at different points through his ministry, and maybe repeatedly now and then because they were important. And so what do we say about this way of seeing things in unity? Where we say that it doesn't really matter because we know very little about the original writings. Bible is not an eyewitness account, and it was decades long passed on oral tradition that kept changing and changing. And when it was finally written down, it was written not in Aramaic, what Jesus and his disciples spoke, but in Greek. So from the literal perspective, there is much to question. However, and so if he said them now and then, that's okay, because we'll just take that as Jesus' greatest hits collection and then work with that a little bit. But as Bible scholar, Reverend Marcus Borg says, just because we don't take the Bible literally doesn't mean that we don't take it seriously. We do take it seriously. And what we try to do from that angle is to try to understand what is the spiritual meaning behind the words. Because as you know, in unity, everything begins in mind, in thought. And what we're seeing is a reflection of, or a manifestation of, those thoughts, those feelings. And so that's what we try to do, to find what is the meaning of all this. Now, I used several sources for the talk. One of them was Discover the Power Within You, because there's a whole chapter on it. So it's another good reason to buy the book, because you can learn more about it than I can do in 10, 20 minutes or whatever it is. And then there's another one from the Eastern approach that I use for the Lord's Prayer as well, from the Vedanta, and one from Emmett Fox, from the Sermon on the Mount, he calls the book. And Eric Butterworth, in that chapter 6, calls them the amazing B-E-B attitudes. In other words, that is to say, the attitudes for being. And he writes, Jesus speaks not of conforming, but of transforming. The old order taught men what to do. Jesus taught us how to be, what to think. So having said that, let's jump into the metaphysical interpretation of the Beatitudes. Emmett Fox says that the Beatitudes are actually a prose poem in 8 verses, which is complete in itself, and he says constitute what is practically a general summary of the whole Christian teaching. Matthew 5 begins, now when he saw the crowds, he went up to the mountainside and sat down. So there's that going up to the mountainside thing again. Quiz time. I've been talking about it. What does it mean? It means seeing things, or in this case, speaking from a higher consciousness. Very good. Now, this is repeated over and over in the Bible. You notice anytime anything really significant happens, it's from the mountaintop. The 10 Commandments, Jesus in this example, Elijah. Anything happens that's major, it's from the mountaintop. That means you're thinking from a theta waves, I guess, whatever they are. You're in a different zone. So Matthew continues, his disciples came to him and he began to teach them, saying, blessed are they who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now note that Luke does not include in spirit. So that one would say, blessed are they who are poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So Are we to believe that Jesus is saying that heaven is for the poor? Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because I see Jesus and God and life itself as abundant. That it's just everywhere. So what could be then the real message behind that particular beatitude? The book says, we have a long time outgrowing the misunderstanding that has stigmatized this beatitude. Throughout the ages of Christianity, it has been a virtue to be poor. This theme has prevailed throughout the teachings about Jesus. Not of Jesus, about Jesus. Butterworth writes, the root word that is translated as spirit is more accurately and meaningfully translated as pride. Poor in pride. Jesus says, theirs is the kingdom of heaven, but keep in mind, again, this is Butterworth saying, that heaven, as Jesus uses the term, is not a place or a reward for afterlife. The root word for heaven comes from the Greek, which means expanding. And so we get a lot of the little parables, the little talks when he says, the kingdom of heaven is like a little mustard seed, because it grows into a big old thing, a big bush. So he's trying to convey the idea of expanding. And that's what we're doing. Our consciousness is expanding. So here's another problem with literal interpretation of the Bible. It is translation. There's different ways you can translate that. And I'm going to give you a real classic example because it happened to me. You know, I used to do glass etching. And there was a gentleman that came, and he was trying to hand over the business to his son-in-law. And so he says, I want you to put his name, and I want you to put El Queso Grande. And because in English we say the big cheese. I mean, the boss. But in Spanish, it is not El Queso Grande. Literally. We would probably say something like El Mero Mero or something along that way. The one, the big dude, or I don't know whatever. But it wouldn't be El Queso Grande. So I can totally relate to this because there is and I read it over and over in my studies, that a particular word has several translations. And sometimes maybe they don't pick the most accurate one. And so that's what it says here. Fox says, to be poor in spirit means to have emptied yourself of all desire or exercise personal self-will, to have renounced all preconceived opinions in the wholehearted search for God. Butterworth says essentially the same thing. Empty yourself of personal will. The Bible refers to this concept is do not put new wine in old wine sacks. Clean out the old stuff before you put the new stuff in. From the Eastern view, it says that one of the chief characteristics which the disciple must have before he is ready to accept what the illumined teacher has to offer him. He must be poor in spirit. In other words, he must be humble. Well, now it makes sense. If a man has pride in learning, wealth, beauty, or lineage, or has preconceived ideas of what spiritual life is and how it should be taught, his mind is not receptive to higher teachings. So the poor in spirit are they who are humble, receptive, and open to the flow of divine energy. Number 2, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Fox writes, mourning or suffering is not in itself a good thing. For the will of God is that everyone should experience happiness and joyous success. Nevertheless, trouble and suffering are often extremely useful for many people because they don't bother to learn the truth until driven so by sorrow or failure. We see this all the time. How many prisoners, criminals are born again in prison? And look at the prodigal son. When was he born again? When he was feeding the swine. He had to reach rock bottom in order to say, this is enough of this. Is madness. What am I doing? So then it says, for those who mourn or long for the union with God will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Just a note about this beatitude. It is not found in Luke, but it is found in Psalm 37, and it reads, the meek will inherit the land and enjoy great peace. Butterworth writes, the meek consciousness is not self-centered. It is God-centered. It is humble in the recognition of human limitations, but confident in the conviction of divine resources. That's very important. It is a surrender of sorts, but not a surrender that means you become a doormat, he writes. A meek consciousness is a serving consciousness. When we become to the understanding of God, then we understand that we are here to serve. Again, makes sense. As to inheriting the earth, this means that when we become servants, we become outlets for spirit, and we will inherit the earth. When we become outlets to spirit, we have dominion over the manifest world. So blessed are they who surrender, this would be the rewriting, blessed are they who will surrender to the expression of spirit, for they shall have dominion over the manifest world. Number 4, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Emmett Fox says, righteousness means not merely right conduct, but more importantly, right thinking. You cannot think one thing and produce another. If you want spiritual unfoldment, growth in the knowledge of God, you must think spiritual, God-like thoughts. A spring cannot pour forth both sweet and bitter water. Can't do it. Now listen to the Eastern view of this. There is a story of a disciple who asked his teacher, Master, how can I realize God? Come along, said the master. I will show you. I love these Eastern things. He took the disciple to the lake, plunged them both in, and suddenly the teacher reached over, pushed his head down, and held it for a good long time. A few moments later, he lets him go, and he asked him, how do you feel? He said, I was desperate for air. He said, when you feel that kind of desperation for God, then you are close to seeing it. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst, who are desperate for right thinking. That makes a lot more sense. Blessed, number 5, blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Of this, Butterworth writes, this attitude is the law of consciousness. If you want to be loved, you must love. If you want friends, you must be friendly. Fox says the thing that really matters is that you be merciful with your thoughts. These guys got this stuff down. They really do. The Bible explains this as sowing and reaping. You get what you give. And the more you give, the more you get. It's that cycle. We are both the doer and the receiver. What does Rumi say? We're both the person looking in the mirror and the mirror itself, or something. I forget what it says, something like that. We are both the doer and the receiver. Beatitude 5 then says, you must be what you want to see. We've heard that phrase. You must see mercy. If you want to see mercy, be merciful. If you want to be loved, then love. Number 6, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. This, Butterworth says, when a man learns to see in God consciousness, then he sees beyond appearances to the innate potential of all that appears. Eastern thought says, what is the test of impurity? Now try to think of God, and it says this, try to think of God right now, this very moment. Try to be like, what do you find? The thought of its presence is there, and perhaps like a flash, it disappears. Because all of a sudden, all the distractions come in. I got to do this, I got to do that. What am I going to have for lunch? I have a meeting on Tuesday. I'm totally unprepared. It goes on and on. So how long can you be in that God consciousness? Which is, of course, what the meditation practice is all about, to get you to be in that for longer and longer periods of time. So this one would be wrapped up as saying, blessed are they who see God in everything. Number 7, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Now, this one literally sounds pretty straightforward. But of this, Fox says, the peacemakers spoken of in this beatitude are those who make or bring about this true peace or serenity in their souls. That's where the peace lies, in your soul. It is for they who surmount limitation and become actually, not merely potentially, children of God. Was that, remember, I keep saying that potential thing. Yeah, all possibilities are or they're present, but they're in potential until you express that. This condition of mind is what Jesus said, my peace I leave you, my peace I give to you. I always liked that in the Catholic Church when they said that. I think that's probably the favorite part of the whole thing. And you get to shake people's hands and stuff. Why don't you shake each other's hands? I'm just kidding. So number 7 says, blessed are they who have found peace in their hearts, for they are the children of God. Number 8, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You want to see the kingdom of heaven, you got to do all these things, and you got to be all these things. Blessed are you when people revile and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. That's what number 8 says. So it says, this is probably the most difficult one to understand about being persecuted. However, there's a couple of things that come to mind, and here's some key things. As we know in Unity, and I said earlier, everything comes from the inside, from the mind, from the consciousness, and works towards the outside. So, therefore, what this Beatitude is talking about is not physical persecution per se, though that has happened, but mental persecution. And mostly what we do to ourselves, how we beat up ourselves. We've talked about that before. How many times, I'm not good enough, I won't be able to do. So the emphasis of this Beatitude is on the attitude that you have, our way of dealing with things. It takes place in our own minds. In other words, it is we who persecute ourselves. We are our own worst enemies. It happens all the time. Remember, in the original, Job is where you first hear about Satan. But who's Satan? Not a person. Satan is, the way it's translated, really is the tempter. The tempter. That part of you that says, yeah, but really, come on. You cannot do that. That's who they're, the accuser, the adversary. And is that someone outside of you? No. It is you. You yourself. You are your own Satan. You don't need a bigger Satan than your own Satan, trust me. That's all you need. You got your hands full with that one. You know, in closing, when I wrote this thing, I came across a CD. We're going out of town this week, so I won't be here Wednesday, but we're going to get together at the park. I'm going to send videos. So I'm going to listen to this gospel again. It's a CD, The Gospel of Mary. And in that, it presents a very interesting way to see this. Let me try to contemplate a little bit about the message for today, if I can just have a lot of music down. Not a little, remember, a lot. There is only love. It says this, recent scholarship in the interpretation of the Beatitudes in Matthew are in error as so much as they imply a passive consolation in the face of tribulation. Back to the doormat thing. They are instead an invitation to stand up, to arise, to walk forth, no matter what pain and sorrow may lie on the road ahead. It further says, when we return to the original Semitic terms underlying the Greek translation of Jesus' words, we find that blessed should be replaced by walk forth, which restores the text's dynamic qualities. Given this, and what I reinterpreted the Beatitudes, then we would get these Beatitudes. Walk forth those who are humble, receptive, and open to the flow of divine energy. Walk forth those who mourn or long for the union with God. Walk forth those who surrender to the expression of spirit, for they shall have dominion over the earth. Walk forth those who hunger and thirst for right thinking, for you cannot think one thing and produce another. Walk forth those who understand the law of consciousness. Be what you want to see. Walk forth those who see God in everything. Walk forth those who have found peace in their own hearts. Walk forth those who are able to subdue your mental persecutions. For those who can do all these things, I say to you, walk forth, my brothers and sisters, into exalted happiness, for yours is the kingdom of heaven. And so it is. And so now, I am very, very thrilled, once again, to present Ms. Shonda Birch.
Nothing's impossible, I have found. For when my chin is on the ground, I pick myself up and dust myself off and start all over again. Don't lose your confidence if you slip.